Aful Performer 5 was an IEM that impressed me a lot, especially coming from a very new brand, Awful. That's what's their first ever IEM, and I know a lot of people say Awful sounds like awful. It does. So Awful, you could have picked a better name. But that aside, they have released a new IEM, as you guys all know, Performer 8. Does it live up to the hype that is Performer 5? And how does it compare to the rest of the market? Let's jump into it. Hey friends, Timmy here, welcome back to Another Guest Audio. Today we have Aful Performer 8. I almost didn't catch that. But yes, Aful Performer 8, second new IEM from the brand Aful, the legend behind Performer 5. Till this day, Performer 5 is still my #1 recommendation if you're looking for an IEM under $300. Now, Performer 8 has a lot to live up to. So in today's video, we'll be reviewing this and comparing it to Blessing 3, Moondrop Variations, Dunu SA6 Mark II, and a little bit of Ultra, why not? Without further ado, let's jump into the tuning of Performer 8. Performer 8 has a very pinna-light kind of tuning, so rich vocals, fuller, more mid-centric focus type of signature. The bass here is clean, well separated, but doesn't have a lot of power. So for you bass lovers out there, this is gonna be a little bit of con. The bass though is more focused on the sub bass. You do get the rumbles, but it does lack the fun slam. But it is a clean sounding bass that lends just a little bit of warmth and fullness to instruments and vocals. Mid-range on the Performer 8 is very centerpiece. Again, the star of the show. It has a rich and thick kind of note weight, not too thick to the point where it comes across muddy or anything like that, just a nice thick and rich note weight alongside a very energetic extension to the upper mid-range. So vocals comes across very fulfilling, full and beautiful, at the same time having a lot of energy. Female vocals sound very lively, and the extension extends all the way very smoothly into the treble as well, and the treble is the best part of the Performer 8. It's sparkly, it's smooth, it's revealing, has a lot of micro nuances. It gives you so much information of any track that you're listening to that it makes me think of those moments where people say, oh, when I listen to this IEM, I hear things that other IEMs never showed me in the song that I usually listen to. Performer 8 gives that kind of feeling, and also IEMs that are tuned similar to Performer 8 also gives this kind of feeling as well, like the Dunu SA6 series, QDC Anole VX, QDC Gemini, so on and so forth. Performer 8 has that quality of wowing you with the amount of information that it has. All of that put together, you get a signature that is very rich and satisfying in the mid-range and very energized and detailed treble, with the sacrifice that is the bass fun, the bass slam. This IEM ultimately is not really for bass head. It's for someone who enjoy very beautiful vocals and want a lot of micro details at the same time, while not really wanting the piercingness that usually comes with a lot of revealing IEM. Performer 8 does a really good job of balancing that in the treble area. Next, we have technical performances. Bring up my scale right here. Performer 8 lands right around Blessing 3, if not a little bit above that, which is to say very, very high. The most technical aspect of Performer 8 comes in the form of micro details. You get just so much information thrown at you, and also transience is very snappy as well. The biggest criticism, technical wise, of the Performer 8 has to do with its imaging. Since the tuning is the way it is, nothing is really pronounced over each other way too much, Performer 8 has a little issue with separation, if you will. It's not as good as some of the more Harmon-like tuning out there. For example, Moondrop Variations, Mangersen's Top, where the Performer 8 wins over those IEMs is, again, the sheer amount of micro details that is thrown at you. So when picking between those IEMs in regards to technical abilities, you're kind of trading off imaging for sheer volumes of details if you're going for Performer 8, and you're sacrificing micro details for better imaging if you're going for Blessing 3, Variations, or the Sense Top. Comparison time, and the IEM that a lot of people request that I compare with the P8 is the Moondrop Blessing 3 because they're around the same price point. Which one should you get? Blessing 3 and Performer 8 are both mid-centric IEM that has a lot of details in the treble with the sacrifice in overall bass power. Bass performance on the Blessing 3, power is lacking, but the bass quality is quite dynamic, something that it does better than the Performer 8 on. Performer 8 lacks the power and the bass doesn't feel as dynamic as on the Blessing 3. When it comes to the penna gain, the upper mid-range, this boils down entirely to taste. Some people think Blessing 3 is too shouty or Harmon-like tuning is too shouty in general. If you're one of those people, then you might like the Performer 8's penna more. In regards to how upper mid-range affects the vocals and instruments, Harmon-like tuning, like in the Blessing 3, vocals can sound very separated from the rest of the mix, which allows vocals to be, again, very well imaged, if you will. But it comes at a cost of maybe becoming thin due to the high penna gain and relatively clean lower mid-range. Some people do find it too shouty, some people find it too thin. On the other hand, Performer 8 might not have as good of an imaging, but the vocals feel lush, full, and rich. So that's the main differences there. When it comes to the treble, Performer 8 has, again, the micro details in spades. While the Blessing 3 does have micro details, it's not as in your face and it's not as revealing as on the Performer 8. Next comparison, we have Moondrop's Variation. Now, when it comes to the mid-range, you can refer back to the Blessing 3 because the comparison here is largely the same. The Variation does go for the more Harmon-like tuning as well. The differences that I want to touch on is the bass and the treble. The bass on the Variations is a lot, especially concentrated in the sub bass. So when the rumble hits, the Variations rumble really, really hard. When it comes to bass power and bass satisfaction as a whole, I would give an edge to the Variations. When it comes to treble, the Variations leans on being a very smooth and natural sounding treble. It's not very revealing in the details, especially in the micro details, but it is very natural and very smooth, while Performer 8 is going balls to the wall with revealing as much details as possible, while at the same time keeping the treble as smooth as possible. I wouldn't really give an edge definitively in one direction or the other, or at least not a significant edge over to either directions. I can see some people liking Performer 8 more than Variations. I can see some people liking Variations more than Performer 8. Next comparison, we have the SA6 family of IEMs, mainly the Mark II and the Ultra. Now, if you love these IEMs, if you demoed them before, you love how the mid-range is done, the Performer 8 is done very similar in that department. So rich, full vocals, penna light kind of tuning. So if you love these, you're gonna love Performer 8. The biggest difference comes in the bass and the treble air. The SA6 family of IEMs have more bass than on the Performer 8, which also leads to them having a more balanced out signature in comparison to the Performer 8 that leans a little bit on the bright frequencies. All three IEMs have great micro detail performance, I would say on par with each other. The one area that I would say the SA6 Mark II and the Ultra does better is in the air region. It has more air, which lends to the SA6 IEMs sounding more open and more spacious as well. In that regard, I would give a small edge over to the SA6 IEMs. Overall, I would say the Performer 8 is kind of like a half-step downgrade to the SA6 IEM. So if you like the SA6 family, then you would like the Performer 8. If you've always wanted to buy an SA6 IEM and maybe you missed out on the Ultra and you think the Mark II is a little bit too expensive, then Performer 8. $200 cheaper with just a small sacrifice in performance in comparison to those. Alright, that is it for review of Performer 8. My final score is green, thumbs up. I love this IEM. Of course, I love the SA6 Mark II, the SA6 Ultra, QDC type of tuning. I love this kind of penna gain, and Performer 8 just does that magic for me. On top of that, it has the micro details that I seek. I want an IEM to be super revealing. I want to listen to it and be wowed. And the Performer 8 has that and does that really well. Alright, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I would like to thank my Patreon subscriber now. For the $9 people, we have Bard, Chadwood K, Norm, Robert, Sunirol, and $18 people, Dr. P, Go to 10, Kirk, Mason, and Sar. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel yourself, link to Patreon is down below. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out and bye. And also don't forget to enter the giveaway. That's still going on.